introducing Dr. Ravikumar, who actually needs no introduction in the Sathya Sai organization. Allow me a few minutes. He has been in the Sai fold since the age of 4, 1963 onwards. He joined the erstwhile Sathya Sai College as a student of the PUC in 1974, completed BSc from the same college and secured a university rank. Went on to do his MSc in physical chemistry from SK University, secured a university rank. Joined the Sathya Sai College at Brindavan as a lecturer in chemistry. Received PhD in organic chemistry and a gold medal from the divine hands of Bhagwan Sri Sathya Sai Baba. In 1990, retired 37 years after serving as a faculty member in the Department of Chemistry. He was appointed as a deputy warden of the Sathya Sai Hostel in Brindavan in 2009. He has since been the warden of the Brindavan Hostel for the last 11 years. What is very interesting is he has been trained in public speaking by none other than Bhagwan himself. And he has had the opportunity to speak in Bhagwan's presence innumerable times, including during the summer course since 1977, every Dasara during the Prashanti Vidwan Mahasabha, and in the divine presence between 1986 and 2010. He has also given talks in different parts of India and traveled widely across the world. Such is the illustrious speaker we are going to listen now. May I now invite Dr. Ravikumar to speak to us on the precious pearls picked at the precious lotus feet of Bhagwan Sri Sathya Sai Baba. Dr. Ravikumar, please.
Offering my humble salutations at Bhagwan's lotus feet. Most beloved and dearest Bhagwan, respected elders, brothers and sisters. There are many things for which we should be grateful to Bhagwan. Right at this moment, I am very grateful to Bhagwan that he called me here for this anniversary celebrations, which is just after COVID times. Because the report which Ashwath sir was reading, even during COVID times, was so long that I thought I may not get to speak. So many activities have been inspired by Bhagwan. This is something which is happening all over the world. Allow me to describe to you in the short time I have at my disposal my journey in Sai land. I too was groomed in a samiti like this, which was inaugurated by Bhagwan in 1963, the Also Samiti. And whatever I am today, I owe it to the Bal Vikas training, to the Bal Vikas teacher, Srimati Vasantama, and of course, to our Supreme Mother, Sai. I have often wondered where to begin, because to describe about Swami is like standing in front of the ocean and trying to count the waves. as Bhagwan tells us, the counting begins for you and ends for you. The waves are eternal and they extend from eternity to eternity. So there is the few drops that I have had the privilege of tasting at Swami's lotus feet, I will share with you. And as is mentioned, these are all priceless pearls picked at the precious lotus feet, because Swami is an ocean. Many years back, Professor Sampath, who was the Vice Chancellor of the Sathya Sai Institute, even before he became the Vice Chancellor, he had come as a part of a UGC team. And he was so overwhelmed by Swami's love. That was the first time he was coming to Swami. So overwhelmed that he wanted to express it to Bhagwan, and he said, Bhagwan, you're an ocean of love. And Swami said, wrong. He thought maybe he was not heard properly. So he repeated, Swami, you're an ocean of love. Swami said, wrong. The ocean has limits. Swami's love has no limits. And whatever was read out as my biodata by the brother does not show my accomplishment. It only shows Swami's kindness on me. And this is the kindness he has on all of us, every single one of us. So, we came to Swami in the 60s. Even though I was born very close to this place in Basavangudi, that is where my grandmother lived, and I was born in one of those nursing homes, one of those corporation nursing homes in the NR colony. And my connection with this place is that old. It is really fascinating how Swami draws us into his fold. One day, while I was in Swami's presence, he said something very strange. He said, I had this chance to do what is called interview room duty in Prashanti Nilayam. That is, there will be 2 students who will be given this chance to be in the mandir, in Swami's room, just outside Swami's room. And Swami would say, call and say, go and call Chiranjeevi Rao and come. Or go and call Kutumba Rao and come, like that. And one day, in a lighter vein, Swami said, sometimes I send difficulties, troubles to call you to my fold. Because we are human beings, unless some disaster strikes us, we don't go to the divine. We need a disaster to deliver us at the divine lotus feet. And this is how we also came to Swami. There might be a few of you who know about this experience which brought us to Swami. But every opportunity that you get to mention it in Swami's presence is an opportunity, and I won't like to miss this. In the late 60s, my father had some kind of a illness. So he went to the family doctor, and that doctor, after after examining him, wrote something on a piece of paper and gave it to the compounder. In those days, there used to be a compounder who will mix various chemicals and give you. And so they used to have huge bottles of all fluorescent liquids. So this man mixed something and gave it to my father and said, take it 3 times a day. For 3 days, you'll be fine. And the medicines those days used to be so bitter that you won't fall ill second time. So this man mixed something and gave, and my father had that, and he was okay. But within a couple of weeks, he was back at the doctor's doorstep, again not feeling well. And so it happened that this repeated for a few times, and the doctor said, no, this is something more complicated than just a viral fever or something like that. I will refer you to a friend of mine, a doctor friend of mine, who has his clinic. Incidentally, that also was a Silver Jubilee nursing home. Okay, so I think it's apt I mention it at the Silver Jubilee celebrations. So he said, I will refer you to the doctor, please go and get yourself tested. So he went there, and this doctor, after examining him, took some tissue for biopsy. When the results came, he called my father and said, you have cancer. In those days, cancer was a very dreaded word. When the doctor tells you have cancer, it's like saying your ticket is booked one way. And so my father came back crestfallen, but the doctor offered some hope. He said, a friend of mine, he has just returned from England. He's an FRCS, a brilliant doctor, Dr. Kalappa, who had his nursing home in the Kengel Hanumantaya Road, the double road as we used to call it those days. So he will perform a surgery and you should be fine. So my father went there, he was admitted, and the surgery was performed. And the doctor was a very, very bright young doctor, very cheerful. I remember him, even though I was just, I think, about in my fourth standard or fifth standard. A very cheerful young man. And looking at his cheerful countenance, you felt that he will be able to cure you. The doctor said, don't worry, Mr. Tyagarajan, I will perform a surgery and you should be fine. But after the surgery, when my father went for a review, the doctor said, I think the first time it didn't work out. Let me try a second time. And so he tried this not just 2 times or 3 times, but 25 times. And after operating on my father for 25 times, the doctor called my sister. My sister had joined the MBBS course at that time. So I thought he felt it better to break the news to a fellow professional. So he called her and said, I have something to confess. I have done everything that I know. And I am quite abreast of all the latest techniques, But your father's cancer has outstripped the knife. And therefore, I have to tell you this, that he has only a few days left. So please take him home with you. Let him stay with you children for the last few days rather than be confined to a hospital bed. And he also knew that we had lost our mother. I had lost my mother when I was 4 years. And so we were all worried what would happen to the family. My sister got my father discharged, brought him home. And that afternoon when she went to the college, the government medical college, which is there in Kalaspalyam there, a classmate of hers, who is Dr. Purnima now, told her, I know why you're so depressed, but I'll take you to a person who can cure your father. And so from there they caught a bus. Just next to that you have the city market bus stop. And those days there used to be only one bus to Brindavan. That was the 99 bus. And so they went to Brindavan. My sister had Swami's darshan and returned home late. My father was worried because those days Bangalore was very conservative. And so when she came late, he asked her what happened. She said, Papa, I went and saw God. You come, he will cure you also. My father, in a typical, shall I say, tam-bram way, said, Podi arla namba maten. I don't believe all this. Because he said, See, the God whom I worshipped all these years, if he is not going to save me, will a new God whom I import into my altar decide to save me? Why should he? And can he? So I am not coming. However much she tried, it didn't succeed. And therefore, she just prayed and left it at that. But when Swami decides to save you, he'll save you irrespective of yourself. That is Swami's compassion on all of us. And so, a few days later, he got a letter from the office where he was working. It was a central government office. And it was written in that letter, kindly present yourself at the office to receive your salary check for the next month. For the last 6 months, we have been sending your salary check, but we don't know whether you're receiving it. This time, physically, you'll have to come and receive it. So with a lot of difficulty and pain, my father went to Tumkur Road. It is the outskirts of Bangalore. In those days, it was even more outskirts than it is today. And there, when he went there, the director called him and asked him, how are you and what's the situation? Then my father explained to him. And the director asked him, how did you come? We were a middle-class family, so we did not have any vehicle of our own. So father had used a public transport. So he had to catch couple of buses to go there. And so he explained it to the director. The director said, I have an idea. There is this gentleman who has come from abroad who wants to meet someone called Sai Baba. So, why don't you take him to that place? It's somewhere in Whitefield. I don't know Bangalore very well, but since you are from Bangalore, you must be knowing the topography of Bangalore well. So, take him to that place, and then on the way back, the office car can drop you at home. What a beautiful combo offer it was. When his daughter asked him to go to Swami, my father refused. But you can't tell that to your boss. So Swami chose the boss as the instrument to convey this message. And he also added that official car trip back. So my father said, okay. And so they arrived at Brindavan. When they arrived at Brindavan, they had absolutely no idea or concept of darshan. And when they entered the gates of Brindavan, Brindavan used to be very beautiful, a lot of greenery those days. And almost tucked away was Swami's bungalow inside. As they were entering the main gate, they saw Swami entering the residential gate, that is the bungalow gate inside. My father's curiosity had been sparked, when Swami's name again came, when the director mentioned. And so he thought, maybe there is hope. And now what did he see? He saw the retreating figure of Swami. Swami's back. And so along with Swami, the hope also receded. And he was very sad. But anyway, the person who came with him said, shall we sit down here for some time? It is so cool and pleasant. We have come so far. Let us sit down for some time. So they sat down there. In those days, we didn't even have Sevadal. We used to have volunteers. And one of those volunteers came and told them, Bhagwan has gone inside. He will come back only in the evening. You can go and return. But they said, we would like to stay here for some time. So he let them be, and just about 5 minutes later, suddenly the inner gates opened, and Bhagwan was coming out. And he was coming very fast. As he was approaching these people, he was cutting across and coming to where they were, almost like a cord, straight. As he was about 10 feet away, he was talking something. And my father thought he must be talking to this gentleman who is with me, because he is the devotee, not me. We have our definition of devotees. So he was thinking he must be talking to him. But the gentleman was from abroad, and Swami was talking in Kannada. Swami was asking, why did you have 25 operations? So straight away my father knew it was him. And Swami said, the doctor is saying that you will die of cancer. You will not die of cancer. Your cancer is cancelled. And he created vibhuti and gave it to my father. Almost like the cancer was cremated at that moment. He gave it as ash. And then my father came home very excited and told us all that happened. I must also mention that he lived for 39 years after that. And he passed away in Prashanti Nilayam in his 88th year, out of old age. We used to stay in the second floor in West Prashanti, and father would go up and down so many times in a day. I would ask him, why are you walking up and down so many times? Don't you feel tired? And he would say, no, it's good for good exercise. That is how it was till the last day, till the very last day. My sister is here who was a witness to this. On the last day, she was early in the morning, he got up, had his bath, and went for Vedam, Nagar Sankirtan they have. Came back, and he had his breakfast. She was making dosas, he had his breakfast. It was just like every other day, very normal. He even had this habit of, in our door, there used to be a small mirror. He'll just look into the mirror, but ask my sister, is my hair combed? And she would say, look, you're looking into the mirror. It's so obvious. That day also he asked the same thing. And he walked out and he said, I'm going for darshan. As he came to the first floor, somebody else met him and asked, Uncle, where are you going so fast? He said, I'm going for darshan. Came to the ground floor. Swami had just shifted into Yajur Mandir just about a month and a half before that. This was in July, and towards the end of March, somewhere near March 27th, Swami had shifted, Ugadi day. And so my father looked at Yajur Mandir, did pranam, said Sai Ram, and he fell down. And somebody came running to my sister and said, your father has fallen down. And she was surprised. She thought maybe he has fainted, so she took a glass of water and sprinkled it on his face. No reaction. At that time you don't know what to do. As she was puzzled what to do, suddenly somebody comes with, two Sevadal people come with stretcher. She asked, for whom is this? They say it is for him, he has fallen down. Just now the ambulance has come to park. Can you imagine, the ambulance has come to park in front of our flat and the stretcher is ready, and within a few minutes, maybe 3 minutes, 4 minutes, he is taken to the general hospital, and the doctor there says that he is Teej Swami's lotus feet. I have narrated this many times in front of Bhagwan, and one day when I narrated this and sat down, Swami said, Seriga Cheppaledu. You didn't narrate it properly. I have narrated this hundreds of times in front of Swami, literally hundreds of times. And I was trying to find out what point I had missed, which must have been very crucial. So, at such moments, you can only pray. So I did pray to Swami. Swami, what is it I missed? Swami said, what did the doctor tell your father when he went to him? Swami, the doctor said, I will cure you, you will be fine. So Swami said, Nik telsa, the doctor passed away before your father. I mentioned to you that he was a young man, bright young man, and he passed away before my father. It only shows when God's grace is there, what can happen. In one of the talks that I had given in UK, there was an occasion when I spoke to about 100 doctors, and one of them told me, Ravikumar, do you understand what a great experience this is. He said, we are battling with cancer, and if we increase somebody's life by another 3 months, we think it's a great achievement. And your father has lived for 39 years. And what is even more strange, or what is even more glorious, I should say, is that my father did not die of cancer. It was old age, 88 years. Till the last minute, he walked to his death. You see, that is how God's grace can protect us. And that is how we came to Swami. So after that, I need not tell you that Swami became the center of our lives. Let me fast forward another, 30 years, 32 years. One day after morning darshan, when I went to the room, I saw my father crying. He was a very strong person. He had been in the Second World War, in the army. He had traveled to Egypt and Tobruk and all those places. And so he was not used to crying. So I was surprised. I asked him, what happened? Are you having any pain? He said, no. One desire of mine, deep desire which I had placed at Swami's lotus feet, a prayer, Swami fulfilled it today. My father's desire was that all of us children should serve Swami. And that day, my other sister who is here, she had got her appointment order from the super specialty hospital. The eldest sister was working in the general hospital at that time. The second sister was a primary school, Prashanti Nilayam primary school teacher. And this third sister also got the chance to work in Swami's super specialty hospital. And of course, I was there already, working in Swami's college. My father also got a chance to serve Swami as the manager of the Sanatan Sarthi press in Brindavan. So this is how Swami drew our entire family into his fold. I need not tell you that life has been a celebration since then. It has been such a fantastic experience. Each one of us has had their own connection with Swami, their own experiences which have strengthened this connection with Swami. When at the time when my father came to Swami, we came to Swami like that. Because I must tell you, I mentioned that we came in 1963, then I said father came in 1968. One day when I was mentioning about this incident, father's cure, Swami, I said, so that is how we came to Swami in 1968. Swami looked at me and said, 1963, he said. So I was very surprised, And then, as if giving a clue, Swami asked, Ravi, do you remember the day your mother passed away? Of course, I remembered the day. I was just, as I mentioned, little over 4 years. All that I remembered was my mother's body being kept there and the sari she was wearing, I remember very clearly. Then Swami said, what happened that day? Of course, I didn't remember. Then Swami narrated this, of course, after that I remembered. Swami said, in the evening when they were about to take the body away, your cousin, I had a cousin who was a couple of months older than me. He came and told me, they are going to take your mother in procession. I was very excited because we lived near a temple. And processions were very common in that temple, and it was always full of joy and celebration and Nadaswaram and fireworks and all that. So I was thinking that just like they take the gods, they are going to take my mother. I didn't understand what death was at that time. But he added one sentence which stung me, and that was, he said, but she will not come back. And so with that, I was very upset. And to calm me down, they took me to my aunt's house, which was just opposite. All this Swami is telling, okay. And Swami said, when you entered her house, you saw my photograph. Swami's photo was there. She was Swami's devotee. And I asked her, Yaar in the Mami, who is this aunt? And she said, the Mami Lapai, the Swami. This is not Mami, this is Swami. And Swami narrated all this and said, from that moment I am taking care of you. So that's how 1963 So that's how he said, you came to me in 1963. Okay, after that, Bal Vikas, I joined the Bal Vikas. The Alsur Bal Vikas was quite famous those days. Kamala Padmanabhan auntie's name was mentioned. She was one of those who initiated Bal Vikas in Bangalore. And my Bal Vikas teacher also was among those people who was, right from the beginning, she took to Bal Vikas, training all of us. But there was no grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, like you have group 1, group 2, group 3, like you have a framed syllabus and all that. She knew one thing, and that was, you take these children to Swami as much as possible, and that's enough. So she was very, very smart. She understood that real transformation can come only when Swami touches us. So she did that and took us to Brindavan very, very often. Okay, I was in the Bal Vikas. I was studying in a high school, I had joined a high school which was 100 years old. This was in the cantonment area. And this school was chosen because my father had studied in that, my uncle had studied in that, and so on. So everyone said, this is a very good school. And so I was put in that school. And the year I joined was the 100th year of its existence. So I joined the school. And in the school, after the first class which we had, first period which we had, when the teacher came and described about the syllabus and all that, after went out of the class, 3 students came and stood in front of us. And one of them asked, do you know who we are? We said, of course we don't know. We are just joined today. They said, we are your seniors. Then someone asked, if you are our seniors, why are you sitting in our class? Then they said, no, we have studied 8th standard 3 times. They had done research in 8th standard. So they had successfully failed 3 times. And so they said, so we know a lot about this school and we will guide you. Talk of peer pressure. Imagine whom we took as our guide. People who have not been successful. They said, we will guide you. And so the first thing was a quiz. What is the quiz? Come on, tell us what is special about this school. Somebody said, oh, it's 100 years old. Very nice. The building is made up of granite. Very nice. Then there's a big playground. Very nice. What else? We ran out of ideas. That's all we know. Beyond the playground, what is there? We had not seen beyond the playground. They said, beyond the playground, only the real school is there. There you have 3 movie theaters. That is where class actually happens. Okay, that is where all learning happens. They said, if you sit in this class, what will you get? Sleep. Whereas if you sit there, you can learn something. If you want to learn Kannada, go to the cinema theater where Kannada films are shown. If you want to learn Hindi, go to the cinema theater where Hindi movies are there. And English, likewise, English films are also shown. You go there, you learn English. It is as if they were teaching us how to fast track our learning. And you know how such advice goes straight to the heart. Went straight to our heart. And so from the next day, we visited the school only for giving attendance. For the attendance, we would be here. And they had huge French windows, without bars. We jump out and go to the class, real class. So we were attending those classes, and nobody knew. My father had been cured of cancer by Swami. So when he went back, to his shock, he found that all those whom he had recruited were now his bosses. He had to take orders from them. So, he was very disturbed. So he was working very hard. My sisters were all busy with their studies, and so nobody was there to monitor my progress. So I was happily attending these classes and learning. And Thursdays, of course, I used to go to the Balvikas class in whites with Vibhuti mark. And the Balvikas teacher would tell others, you should all become like Ravi. Only I knew how I was. Nobody else, according to me, knew who I was. And I thought life would continue like this. That school had some very good policies. Like when they give the results, they will not give the details. They will only say pass or fail. After that, it's left to your creativity. You can always go and tell your parents that just missed first rank by 2 marks. Because it can vary. It can be 1.5 marks also. And parents used to say, next time study well, get first rank. So life went on like this. And I thought education means it's like this. Till one day. That day dawned. It was a Sunday. And we went to Brindavan. My father and I were sitting there, and Swami came out for darshan. And he looked at my father and said, go inside. So he had selected us for interview. So my father was very excited. And he said, come, we'll go inside. Inside means bungalow. There's a bungalow inside. So that's what Swami meant. So he was tugging me. I was not very keen, reluctant. Because once our Balvikas teacher had described about Swami's interview, she said, Swami's interview are all simply fantastic. I asked her, what is so special about Swami's interview? Interview means they'll ask questions and then you answer and then they will take you job or for the class. She said, no, it's not like that. Swami's interview, Swami will answer all your questions. You don't have to open your mouth at all. He will answer. No, my worry was, suppose he answers. That was my worry. So what to do? I was not keen, but my father was very keen. And so I had no choice. Went with him. And we were all standing in a line. Swami finished darshan, aarti, and came inside. I was the first in the line. As soon as Swami came in, he looked at my father and me, and he patted me on my cheek and told my father, good boy. My father was in the 9th cloud, as they say. He looked at others, whether they had heard this. Swami has said he is a good boy. Every father, there is a saying in Tamil that what is the gratitude you pay to your father? It is when others say, what tapas he must have done to get a son like this. That is what they Ennotran kollenum sol. That's what they say. What tapas he has done that he has got a son like this. And imagine if God says that he's a good boy, there cannot be anything greater than that. I also looked very, good. And till that moment, that little bit of worry was there. That nobody else knows, but in case Swami knows. And with that one sentence, Swami had cleared that doubt. I thought even Swami does not know. And the moment I thought like this, Swami asked my father, where are the other members of your Samiti? Swami, they are sitting outside. Go and call them, he said. Sent my father. And very lovingly, he called me like this. When Swami calls also, he calls you like this. He's uplifting you. He called me away from the rest. Because they heard the first part, that is good. The second part they shouldn't hear. So he called me forward and he said, good boy, he said. I tried to be as good as I can look. Then Swami said, good boy? So what was a full stop became a question mark. I was wondering, why did it become a question mark? Then Swami said, where were you yesterday? If there are any teachers among you, you know this. When the student faces a tough question, you know what he does? He will give all the information he has, whether it's useless or useful. So, same thing I employed. I said, Swami, yesterday was a Saturday. As if Swami didn't know. Swami said, I know. Today is Sunday, yesterday was Saturday. I said, Swami, I must have been in class. Then Swami said, yeah, you should have been in class, but where were you? In Bal Vikas, they teach you some very useful techniques, silent sitting and all that. Comes in handy. Because at such moments you realize why silence is golden. Speech is silver, silence is golden, they say, gold. I realized that if better to keep the lower part of the face shut. So I just kept quiet. Swami waited for a few seconds and said, shall I tell you? And I was thinking, if you know, why not? Go ahead. Thinking, not telling. Okay? And Swami said, very nonchalantly, he said, yesterday you were in Ajanta Theatre. Oh my God, I was shocked. Ajanta Theatre? So he knows the existence of Ajanta Theatre. That was bad enough. And he knows I was in that. And Swami said, Ajanta Theatre, last but one row. And all this he's telling smilingly. And my BP is increasing. And then he says, he named the two classmates who were sitting with me. And he says, all three of you were watching Katti Patang. Asha Parekh, Rajesh Khanna. Do you want any more information? Why do I want any information? That side my father is coming. My worry was that he'll pass on this information to my father. And that's going to be a red letter day. My father was very strict. So I thought 2 seconds later my father will arrive there. And Swami will tell him all this. And he will fall at Swami's feet. Sashtang Pranam he'll do. And say, Swami, you're God, you know everything. But when my father came, Swami did something very unusual. He just patted me again and told my father, good boy. Then he said, he's a good boy, but I told him to keep good company. Because satsangatve nissangatvam, nissangatve nirmohatvam, nirmohatve nischalatatvam, nischalatatve jivan mukti. If you want jivan mukti, good company is the first step. That's why Swami always says, run away from bad company. Tyaja durjana samsargam. Bhajas sadhu samagam, he says. Not enough. If you give up bad company, you must also get into good company. When Swami said this, and then he called us for interview. We went inside for interview, and my father, Swami spoke something in the interview for 1.5 hours. But I was totally in a different world. My mind, only one question was going round and round, and that was, Swami knew everything about me, but he didn't let me down in front of my father. He's omniscient, but he is all loving. Who can be like that? What a combination. Knowledge and love. Omniscience and omnipotent love, both together. In that interview, I decided that he is God. Only God can have this combination. And so from today, I'll worship him as my God. And till the end of my life, I should worship only him. Actually, everything that Swami does is very beautiful. When he called us for interview, what did he say? He said, go inside. He didn't mean inside the bungalow. He meant inside. Because Swami says, education today is all information oriented. There is hardly any bit of transformation that happens. What is information? Information is just when you go around asking everyone, who are you? Who are you? And transformation is when you start asking, who am I? Who am I? So when Swami said, go inside, he meant this going inside. And from that day, I need not tell you, my life became totally different. I had tasted that love. And having tasted that love, I wanted to be at Swami's feet for as long as I live. I enjoyed this beautiful chance to be near Swami. So when the pre-university courses I had to join, I joined Brindavan. I think I may have time for one more experience. I will narrate this. Once Swami becomes the center of your life, you confide him all your problems, all your happiness, all your joys, all your sorrows. And the wonderful thing is, this is a phone line that is available 24/7. It never say out of coverage area or something like that. It is always, there is no cross talk. It doesn't go to the wrong number. It is always available. 24/7 you can contact Swami because he is always with you. So this is a beautiful lesson that I learned, that you can take all your problems to Swami. And that is the best thing that you can do. In fact, Swami was telling one day when he was asking, how do you worship me? So somebody said, Swami, putting flowers. And Swami said, those flowers will get, that plant from which the flowers came, that will get punyam, not you. Then Swami said, offer all your thoughts to me. And then Swami said, how will you offer your thoughts to me? Speak to me. Everything that you do, confide in me. You tell me, Swami, this is what I am going to do. When you study, you say, Swami, I am going to study this physical chemistry, I am going to study. At the end of it, you close your eyes and then say, Swami, I am repeating it in front of you. And in one context, Swami was telling me, when you have bath, remember that you are doing abhishekam to the Lord. When you eat, think that you are offering the naivedyam to the Lord. Okay? Then he said this sentence, very beautiful sentence. He said, then work will be transformed into worship. So you don't have to separately go into to the puja room and do puja. Your whole life gets transformed into a worship of the Lord, because it is no longer just a routine activity or a ritual. Everything that you do, you offer to the Lord. In fact, very beautifully, I got this lesson when I joined Brindavan Hostel. On the very first day I joined Brindavan Hostel, Swami gave a discourse. In that discourse he said, see, the breath, is giving you a mantra all the time. It's Hamsa Gayatri. Saying, so, hum, like that it's saying, I am God, I am God, it's saying. 21,600 times it's saying. And I have kept your nose so close to the ear, but you still don't hear. That's what he said. So remember this mantra, which it's always being taught to you by the breath. This is a beautiful discourse. The first discourse I remember on the day I joined Brindavan Hostel, 1974. The next morning, we were all in one small room called the staircase room. In the old bungalow, there used to be a staircase leading to Swami's room. And we would vie with each other to get into that room. Because, if you are on flat ground, as Swami walks past you, few seconds, or a second maybe. But when you are in that staircase room, Swami is coming from upstairs down, and so he is observing you all the time. And only about 7-8 people can get into that room. So these 7-8 people, Swami is looking all the time he comes down, the flight of steps. So I got into that room somehow. Now Swami came to the top flight of stairs, and he just asked, he looked at all of us and asked, who are you? That was the question. I panicked. I thought maybe we are not supposed to be there. We might have crossed some limits and gone into that room. But Swami came down, asked the first boy, "Who are you?" That boy said, "Swami, I am Ramesh from Kalkunte village." Swami said, "Adi kadu." He asked the next boy, "Who are you?" He said, "Swami, I am a BCom student." "Adi kadu." And the third was me. "Who are you?" Swami said, very feebly. I said, "Swami, I am your child." Swami just patted and went to the next boy and asked him, "Who are you?" Now this person was an old student, veteran you can call. He knew. He said, "Swami, you and I are one." He understood that Swami is taking a feedback. Today we do this, isn't it? In our online course, offline course, we do this feedback, whether the student has grasped. So he thought, see, Swami is testing whether I have absorbed that. And he said, "Swami, Soham, you and I are one." And we all looked at him with a lot of envy, jealousy. Look at this fellow. He just got the point. And we were telling something. Swami told, yesterday we didn't grasp that. And Swami said, "Huh? What did you say?" "Swami, Soham, you and I are one." Swami said, "Ah." And we were thinking that Swami is going to create a ring and give him. Because he answered correctly. Then Swami, there was a mischievous smile on Swami's lips. Swami said, "You and I are one. నేను ఇప్పుడే దర్శన్కి పోవాలనుకున్నాను. I was about to go for darshan. Today you go." And all of us burst into laugh. Burst. Then came the lesson. Swami said, spirituality ante speech kadappa, practice. So that is the lesson. Spirituality is not speech. It's not a noun. It's a verb. Action. It's not enough if you just say that we love God. Okay? What is the proof that you love God? How much has your loving God helped society around you? When Ashwat sir was reading about the works which are being done, I was thinking of this. How much society has benefited because we have come to Swami. Not only are we benefited, but all those around us are also benefited. See, that is the sign. Okay, so this is the lesson I learnt. I must now rush through. And so we were going to the pre-university course. Now in the pre-university course, I had taken this combination, maths, physics, chemistry. Physics and chemistry somehow I could manage. But mathematics was a little difficult for me. There's one very famous mathematic wizard whose house we were tenants. I forget her name. You give her a big multiplication or square root or cube root or something. Shakuntala Devi, yeah. In her house we were tenants. And my sister was one day telling me, you were sitting on her lap during the Namakaranam, whatever, that time. In spite of that, somehow mathematics didn't sit in me. So, when the teacher, we had a teacher, a very senior professor, was very, he had guided so many projects and things like that. After retirement, he came to offer his services to Swami, and he was given our class to teach. And so he started teaching us mathematics. And he had short sight. I was a traditional backbencher. Okay, Gandhi class, they say, like that, backbencher. So this teacher will ask, "Have you understood?" And we all know that there will always be some people in our class who will shake their head so much that the teacher thinks everyone has understood. So there were some people in my class also who were sitting in the front bench. And the teacher would look at them and they shook their head so much that he thought all of us understood. I could not understand one bit of it. There was another classmate of mine. Both of us were in the same boat. So we actually shared notes about what we did not know, our ignorance. Okay. So life was going on like this till the mathematics exam came. So mathematics exam, we are next morning. The previous day, all heartbeat, pulse rate, everything is going up. But in those days, we had one beautiful chance. That is, the Swami's bungalow was just next to the college. And it was just 10 feet away from the hostel. So when we used to chant Suprabhatam, Swami used to hear. And Swami used to tell, who all chanted Suprabhatam today? Then he used to tell us, you all sang Suprabhatam, I couldn't even sleep. Like that. Okay, so near it was. So we went upstairs to Swami's room to take namaskar. Before exams, we used to go take namaskar and come. So as we went upstairs, I was sure after this, Swami will take over. As we are going, that day, Swami was in a Rudra mood, very angry. Because Swami never gets angry. If he gets angry, where will we be? Just put on. Ram Brahmam Garu was the caretaker, and he was getting a dressing down. Those days, my Telugu was not good enough. I could only sense that something was amiss. And the moment I entered the room, Swami said, hey, come here. And I was included in that bracket, that special bracket, whatever it was. And Swami said, no, Cheppu, you tell me, how much money do you get from home? So I said, Swami, 100 rupees. In those days, can you believe? 100 rupees per month was considered a big amount. Swami said, 100 rupees? Enduku, why do you get 100 rupees from home? I told Swami, 65 rupees mess bill. Okay, 35 rupees EMI indi. So he's asking, accounts. Mathematics exam there, accounts exam here. I am trying my best, 35 rupees. I said, Swami, haircut. How many times do you have in a month? Once only, Swami. Then soap. In those days, soap also used to be so cheap. All the time, I'm trying creativity. All that is not adding up to even 10 rupees. And another 25 rupees left to bridge the gap. And Swami is getting angry. He said, your father is struggling there. Inta dabbu waste chestunnao, wasting so much money. At that moment, miracle which happened was the exam bell rang. What a relief. And Swami said, exam unda? He asked me. Yes, Swami, exam is there. And I was thinking in my mind, Swami is asking, exam unda, so ordinarily, it's maths exam, not ordinary exam. Like they say, it's not a car, it's a car, they say, like that. It's a special maths exam. Then Swami said, breakfast in Nava? Yes. Did you have your breakfast? Late, Swami. Go to the hostel, have breakfast, and go to the exam. Strictly followed that. Went to the hostel, had my breakfast, went to the exam hall. My mathematics teacher was sweating there outside. Yes, Ravikumar, what happened? What happened? Why are you late? 20 minutes late. If you don't go within half an hour, they won't give you the question paper. So I said, sir, long story. He said, no, enter the exam hall. You can tell me the story later. So I went inside the exam hall. The invigilator gave me the paper. I looked at the paper and I was full of bliss, because out of 13 theorems, 8 theorems had come. And theorems are just by heart and vomit. So I said, 8 theorems are there, no problem. I will not only get pass the exam, I will get distinction. So I started writing the first answer. Remember, I started 20 minutes late. And these mathematicians have some habit of putting some booby traps here and there. So they had let x be equal to. I wrote let x be equal to what? Equal to what? I didn't remember. I struggled for 10 minutes with that. Then I said, okay, forget this question. We'll go to the next question. Went to the next question. There, let y be equal to. Already struggling with x. Now y also is added to that. And I said, my God, this is tough. And before I knew anything, The final bell rang. And the invigilator came asking for paper. I looked at my answer paper, full of debris of fractured theorems. Not even one of them answered properly. So I said, gone. I looked at it. I smiled to myself and gave it to the examiner, to the invigilator, thinking, my gain is your loss. I came out of the hall. And to my surprise, the maths teacher was waiting outside. And he asked me, Ravikumar, how did you do the exam? I was very touched. I told him, sir, only in Swami's college we have teachers like you. He asked, what do you mean? No, sir, you came to the exam hall before me. And 3 hours later, you waited to find out how I have done. So much concern for me. He said, not that. If you pass, we'll get 100% result. That's why I was waiting. So, I sat with him. And then I described to him each theorem. Sir, this much I wrote. This place I got stuck. That place I got stuck. Finished. And looked at him expectantly and said, sir, will I pass? He took out a handkerchief and wiped his brow. And he said, Ravikumar, this exam is written by some 40,000-50,000 students. We don't know where your paper will go to. But if it goes to an examiner whose children have not troubled him, wife has not scolded him, and traffic jam has not been there on his way, then there's a chance you will get 35. How many clauses? And 35 was like the brink. You get 35, you pass. 34, you fail. So I came back. You can imagine how that holiday would have been, full of prayers. But one wonderful thing which happened was Swami took me with him to Bombay, Mumbai. We had a drama, Bhajagovindam drama. So Swami took us there. And the drama was such a grand success that on the last day, Swami took us for sightseeing. He came with us in a bus. We went around the entire Mumbai city, showed us various places himself, And when we finished, and after 4 hours, 11 o'clock in the night, he was getting down from bus. He looked at me and said, no, Puttaparthi Kra, he said. You come to Puttaparthi. So I went to Puttaparthi. At that moment, as I was going, my grandfather told me, Swami had told me earlier that he would perform my Upanayanam. And I was the eldest son in the family. And because my Upanayanam was not done, the others were all waiting. So he said, ask Swami for it. Pray to Swami that he should perform the Upanayanam. So I went there to Prashantinilayam. And I said, Swami, I want to ask something. Swami said, okay. He called me for interview and asked, what do you want? This is a question God must have been used to asking all the rishis, and they do thousands of years of tapas, and then finally he comes and asks, what do you want? Because if someone like Ravana and all, he'll say that I should not be killed by this and that. Luckily, the boon I asked was different. I should not be killed by mathematics. I didn't say like that. I said, Swami, mathematics lo pass kavali. Swami must have felt very odd, somebody asking a question. Then he said, adaipoindi vere. What other boon you want? I said, I don't want any other boon. Where am Oddu Swami? Then, when I look at it, I feel, how Swami would have felt, felt at that moment, how foolish I am. Adi aipoindi, Swami said. That's over. What else do you want? I felt God has stretched himself to save me from mathematics. Okay. 1 month later, our results came. And our principal, Professor Narendra, he brought the marks card of all the hostel boys and gave it to Swami. And Swami would see our marks and call us by name and give it to us. And my marks card came. Swami said, Ravikumar, and gave it to me. Next boy was some Santosh. Santosh, he said. And then he said, hey, Chusava? He asked. Did you see? I said, yes, Swami, because in red ink it was written past. I said, Swami, pass ainan, Swami. Mathematics mark chudu, he said. See your mathematics marks. It was 53. No, and my teacher had told me that I'll get 35. I had not told Swami, okay? And Swami said, no, 35 marks ke rasnav kada. You wrote only for 35 marks. How did you get 53? I said, I don't know, Swami. You have done something. Swami said, Jagratagar chadu, he said. Study properly, now onwards. And so, if that brother who introduced me said that I'm a rank student and all that, you know where all the grace comes from. All that grace is due to Swami only. And this is a grace available to every one of us. You know, Swami is always there to bless us. We just need to approach him and put the problem at his feet. This is not only mathematics, it applies to every problem in life. I already exceeded my time. I'll wind up with this. Every occasion which we get, what can you do but shed tears of joy? Swami says, Sai, kanniti tappinchu. He can wipe away your tears. You go to him, say, Swami, God, I have cancer. He can wipe away your tears of worry, of sorrow. Kanniti tappinchu. Kanniti teppinchu. He can also bring tears to your eyes. When you think of him, he can only bring tears to your eyes. What other offering can we give him? Do we have anything that we can give him? We can only offer our grateful tears to him. Because other than that, we have nothing. We have only those tears of bliss that we can offer to him. That is all that he asks of us also. He wants that we should always be happy, blissful. Having come into his fold, it's our duty not only to be blissful, but to pass on this bliss to all those around us. Thanking all of you for this wonderful opportunity to reminisce about Swami Sai Ram.
Thank you, sir. I think Swami is giving a message. Sariga maatadnavani rendu pool padindi. Thank you so much for such a beautiful, priceless share from a Jubilee evening to a Jubilee evening. Thank you so much, sir. Now I request our district president, Sri Chandrasekhar, to speak a few words.
I offer our humble salutations at the divine lotus feet of our beloved Lord Bhagwan Sri Sathya Sai Baba. My dear Swami, respected elders, and my dear brothers and sisters, a loving Sai Ram to each one of you. Greetings on this wonderful and auspicious occasion of the Silver Jubilee of this hallowed precincts of Sai Gitanjali. I think after that scintillating talk by Dr. Ravikumar, I would find it very difficult to stand in front of you and share a few thoughts, coupled with the fact that I'm sure all of you must be very eager to get back home. The weather is also not cooperating. So I'll keep it very short. Yesterday I was listening to a talk by Professor Gangadhar Shastri, and he mentioned one incident. There was this lady who was pregnant, and she also had a hole in her heart. And she had gone to Parthi along with her family. And Swami called them for an interview. And then Swami told her parents, you leave her here for a month. And you go back, you come after a month. Let her be here. So the parents left her there and went. And Swami told this lady, you come for darshan daily. So every day she would come for darshan. Swami would just walk past her, glance at her, and move on. And 1 month later, the parents came. Swami again called them for an interview. And then he told the parents, you know what? Now her hole is no longer there. And then the thought came, so why? Swami could have done this in a trice. Why did he take 30 days? And then Swami told them, you know what I gave her is something called Chupu Prasadam. And that set me thinking, Chupu is looks or seeing. So Swami saw her every day and just that sight cured her. I've had innumerable darshans of Swami, and I'm sure many of you sitting here have had, and millions across the world. And I was wondering, why is it that there are some who are picked up for this Chupu Prasadam? I got only Chupu, I didn't get the Prasadam. And so, but he's been showering it equally for everyone. So if there's something missing, it's probably missing in me. And I was wondering what that could be. And I think it's like the radio waves, you know. We all, when I was young, we had this transistor radio. We used to tune to listen to something. And then it struck me that maybe I'm not as tuned to receive that prasadam as somebody else is. Now, the moment we enter Prashanti Nilayam, you know, enter the Ganesha gate, suddenly, I don't know if you've felt that way, but our mindset changes completely. Suddenly, there's peace dawning on us. It's in a different state of mind. It's as if suddenly, automatically, the mind has tuned, right? But again, once we step out of Prashanti Nilayam, probably the tuning is no longer as strong. So to me, Sai Gitanjali is my Prashanti Nilayam in JP Nagar. You know, because when we step into Sai Gitanjali, we get tuned automatically. And I've experienced this many times. So 25 years of tuning, fine-tuning, and I'm still not there. So that tells us how arduous the task is. For some, it's a matter of few minutes. For some, it's days. For some, it's years. For some, it's lifetimes to tune ourselves to that. And I think that's an ongoing process. So it's up to us on how we use this wonderful gift of Sai Gitanjali to continue to tune ourselves to his wavelength, his frequency, so that a day will come when, even after stepping out of Sai Gitanjali, we still remain tuned. And that remains forever. You know, when Dr. Ravikumar was narrating the good boy incident, it kind of struck me. Yesterday, we had this Bal Vikas program, and while introducing me, the sister added a prefix and said, Dr. Sai Chandrasekhar. And I was wondering, why did this happen? Now, there are two ways in which you can be called a doctor. One is a medical doctor, which at my age is ruled out. I don't think I can ever get admission for MBBS now. So that's out of the question. The second way you can be called a doctor is if you can get a PhD. Now that's within the realm of achievement, technically speaking, but I don't think I have the wherewithal to now enroll for a PhD and then do that. And then I was wondering, so what's left? And I suddenly remember, I think it was Ajit Popat who once said, PhD means pure-hearted devotee. So there are two elements there, pure and devotee. And when Swami said, good boy, what he was saying is, you have the capability to be a good boy. And I'm sure you will be a good boy. So when I say good boy, it's, I want you to be a good boy. And so here, it was Swami saying, I want you to be a PhD. You're capable. But there's work to be done. And that reminded me of a statement by Professor Mukundan, who is now the head of the South Zone, and he was the president of Kerala Satsai Seva Organization. He once termed a phrase called the integrity gap. Now, the integrity gap, as he defined it, is the gap between what you're capable of doing and what you're doing. So when Swami says, good boy, what he's saying is, you have the ability to bridge the gap. So with prayers to Swami to help us bridge that integrity gap, bring it to zero so that we can be where he wants us to be, I again wish each one of you a very, very warm greetings on this occasion of the Silver Jubilee of Sai Gitanjali. Let's all try to tune ourselves, use this precincts to tune ourselves, bridge the integrity gap, and be one with Swami, blissful as ever. Jai Sai Ram.
Sir, Ravikumar, please come. I think
Humble pranams at the Lotus Suite. I have been given, or am blessed to be given, this opportunity to propose this vote of thanks, which I do with all humility and with sincere and utmost gratitude to all of you, brothers and sisters. On this very auspicious occasion, I would also want to pay obeisance to those souls that are no longer with us, those divine souls who made Sai Gitanjali a reality. Be it Dr. Padmanabhan Uncle, Kamala Auntie, or Mr. Gangadhar Shetty, or many others for that matter. So I also have been blessed with that unique opportunity of being part of the inaugural function that day. I was part of the bhajan group that day. Possibly I would have never expected at that point of time that I will again stand before this august audience to deliver this vote of thanks. My special thanks to Swami for this beautiful opportunity that's been given to me. I thank all my brothers and sisters in Sai Gitanjali who have made this program a big success, who have worked through tough times. We all know that Sai Gitanjali always used to boast of 7-day bhajan in a week. Unfortunately, due to the pandemic, we could not keep up this track record, but then we will be very soon on track. And that's the blessing we seek from Swami today. And it was a very great occasion to all of you. I do not want to, again remind you, you must all be going through the same emotional attachment or the love that we have for Swami after listening to Dr. Ravikumar today. It was a very, very touching discourse that we were all blessed with today, I should say. I have always heard of him, of his being a very eloquent speaker, but never had the opportunity to hear him until today. I did get introduced to him 30 years ago, but then I would have to now tell him that, yeah, I've met him once. I had the opportunity to meet him many years ago. Sai Ram, all of you once again, and thank you all, and I hope we are all there to celebrate even the 50th anniversary of Sai Gitanjali. I thank Brother Sai Chandrasekhar for his very inspiring talk today, though it was brief. And last but not the least, I have a small task to perform. We want, as a group, to convey our gratitude and our acknowledgement of service to our Mr. Chandrasekhar and Mrs. Chandrasekhar. They've been part of Sai Gitanjali for all these 25 years, taking care of this facility as their own. All our inspiration comes from our leader, mentor, philosopher, guide, fatherly figure, Dr. Ashwath. So, grateful thanks to you, sir. Thank you all once again. And once again, I thank Dr. Ravikumar for getting us drenched in this rain of bliss. Sai Ram.